Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint some clay pots with some geraniums hanging on a stone wall. So we've got several interesting techniques that we'll be using. I've got my husband, Mark, with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's manning the chat for the live show, so it should be fun. I think I'm going to keep it simple for beginners, hopefully, and I'll show you step by step how to do it all the way through from beginning to finish. Let's get started. Okay, so this is my reference photo here. I really like the colors and I just like the simplicity of the stone background. So I went ahead and started with a Cantone palette, canvas panel. It's by Fredrix. They're pre-painted with gray gesso. So if you don't have them or can't find them, you can just paint some light gray in the background of your canvas to start with. And I would use like burnt umber and ultramarine blue in kind of equal parts and add a little white, and that'll get you a color close to this. It's kind of a cool gray, a little bit more on the blue side. All right, and then it's a 9x12, by the way. And then I'm going to use a few different brushes here. I've got a number 12 bright, a number 4 bright, and a number 6 bright. So I didn't say those in order. Number 2 round and number 4 round. And then you're going to want some sort of texture tools of some sort. So I've got a Deerfoot stippler, a fan brush, and a 3/8 inch Willow blender. Those are also Princeton brushes. These two are the Select, and this one is the VelvetTouch. These ones with the green handle are their 6100 series that I really like because they've got kind of a really nice medium firmness. And then I've got a 3/8 inch angle brush in case we need to do some details. So, and I may also have, I've got this 1.5 inch bristle bright that I may also use. So just kind of a stiff bristled large brush and a sponge and a credit card. All right, I think that's all. Let's go over our palette really quick too. Carbon black, Unbleached Titanium, Titanium white, Quinacridone Magenta, Cadmium Red Medium, Cadmium Red Light, Yellow Oxide, Cadmium Yellow Medium, Phthalo Green, Yellow Shade, Ultramarine Blue, Dioxazine Purple, Burnt Sienna, and Burnt Umber. If you don't have these exact colors, just use what you've got that's close to them. Really, you just want kind of a cool red, a medium red, and a warm red. All right, let's sketch out on our canvas board here. I just wanted to kind of put the pots in generally so that I kind of knew where to work my stones around them. I'm not going to paint them in quite yet, and we'll be painting over some of these, but I'll go ahead and show you how to draw it. You could do this on paper first and then transfer it onto your canvas later. But what I did was kind of figured out kind of a triangle here, and it's about maybe a thumb's width above your halfway mark and a thumb before the bottom. So that's kind of what I used to space out my little triangle shape here for my 3 pots. And then I just split it down the middle. So kind of figured out my top and bottom mark where I wanted those to be, and then split it down the middle. And then this middle part, the bottom pots kind of fit in just above it, and this one fits in just below it. If that makes sense. And then I've got a lot of lines here, so hopefully this is not too confusing. To draw your pots, probably the easiest way to do it, and I'll do it up here in the corner, is to draw yourself a square and then cut off the top a little bit. That'll be the top of your pot, and then just taper from that corner down. And that way you'll get your pots all evenly sized. So make your squares about the same size. That way you get them kind of in the right proportion there. And then you just erase these sides. So I did that 3 times. I did one here, and one here. Just made sure if you're not sure where to put this middle one, I started with the bottom one first and did that one first. And then I kind of use this line here to kind of draw up and know where to put these two. So if you did kind of straight line up from here, then you kind of know where to place these sort of equally. And like I said, there's a little space in between where this one stops and these two start. Okay, so not too difficult. This one up on the top here is curved a little bit at the top. It's not straight across like the square, so you just kind of curve up above your square edge here and here. And then the bottom of it, you're seeing a little bit of the bottom, so there's like a little bit of a smushed oval on that one. These ones, you're pretty much straight on. The angle is a little bit different on these. So this one's a little bit curved, but you're not seeing the bottom of the pot. Okay, hopefully that made sense. And then I'm going to wait to tell you about the hanger until after we do our stonework. So what you're going to want to do for your stone is just make yourself these rectangles and squares all around your pots in different sizes. Really doesn't matter how many you fit in here. You just want to have them, keep them kind of random, or you can look at the reference photo. It's very kind of rustic and all the stones aren't the same size. They're all kind of different, and there's lots of space in between some of them. And so I'm just going to kind of mark out where my boundaries are from my stones here really quickly. And we can firm these up a little bit more as we work, but that'll give us kind of a head start. Some of these we're going to want to go right off the canvas, so I want to maybe do another couple right here. Maybe fit one up here. All right, that'll be good. So I'm going to start out with my sponge. I'm going to dip it in my water and squeeze it out really well to get all the water out of it. But you do want it a little bit damp. And then you're going to pick up, we'll start with the Unbleached Titanium here. And I'm going to go ahead and mix up, let me get a different brush. I'm going to mix up a little bit of gray with my Ultramarine Blue and Burnt Umber in about equal parts. Maybe a tiny bit more blue than brown. And that'll be kind of our shadow, deep shadow color. Don't want to make it too big. And then I'm going to grab, let's grab the Unbleached Titanium here. I'm going to mix it in over here. Add a little bit more blue. There we go. And to get off that extra paint, I'm just going to kind of smush it and twist. All right, doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to get into that paint and dabble it into my Unbleached Titanium and just start stippling in some texture on our stones. Some of them will be more textured than others. And really don't worry about your lines. You can put those back in later if you need to, because you want this color to go all the way to the edges. And there is a little bit of texturing in the mortar or the grout. I guess it's mortar between these as well. So right. The key to the sponging is just to have not too much paint on your brush or on your sponge. If you have too much paint on there, you're just going to get these kind of blobs of solid color. So just go light on the paint. You can dab it off on a paper towel to test it before you go to the canvas, but good. What? Grab a little bit of yellow oxide. Grab some more of my gray. And I've got the Unbleached Titanium, yellow oxide, and gray. And I'm just going to kind of smush it flat. I've got my credit card now. Really, any plastic card will do, as long as it's firm. And I don't want to fully mix it, so you can see that there's still a little bit of streaks in there. I'm going to use that and just kind of stucco on my rocks. And this just adds a really interesting texture that you really can't get with a brush. I want to say hi to everybody today. I haven't stopped to say hi.
Hello,
got straight
everybody.
into painting.
Yeah, you just jumped in there.
Mm.
And you got me I'm on the edge of my seat.
Are you?
Yeah, because you said that you're going to tell us later about the hangers. So.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to tell you how to paint, how to draw them.
Yeah, I can't wait.
You can't wait.
So excited.
So excited.
Yes. Welcome to the channel, everybody.
Yes.
This is about as dumb as it gets. And she puts up with me because she can't reach me. So I feel safe over here.
All right.
But hey, welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining us today. We're live
Yeah.
here in the U.S. It's Saturday, May 26th. On the holiday weekend.
It is. So, yeah. Hopefully people aren't all on vacation. Hopefully we've got a few people watching today.
We got 6.
6 people? Okay.
Yeah, 6 people, so.
Thank you for those of you who stopped, mowing your lawns or whatever you were doing.
It's not our neighbor for sure.
No, it's
Can
not.
you-
I
can
can
you
hear
out
him out there mowing right now.
Everybody else is chatting. There's
Okay.
about 6 people watching.
What?
Hey, we got a question.
Okay.
They want to know, do you rinse the sponge and reuse it?
Yeah, after you use it, you do. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
For
we
sure.
don't put soap on it. We just rinse it out with just clean tap water. Correct. Like when you're done.
Yeah, I don't really put soap in it. You don't need to. It'll come right out pretty much. If it's not coming out, you can use a little bit of soap. It won't hurt anything, but I don't usually. Okay, so now I'm just kind of pressing through that and sort of softening up those edges a little bit with that sponge. Okay. But yeah, you don't want to put a lot of soap in there because it'll
You'll never get
be
it
hard
out.
to get it out. Yeah.
So if you're new to the channel, down below you can click the see more, view more, or more or something below the video, and there's a list of all the
I'm having trouble with this today.
list of all the paints and materials she's using, brushes, links to the brush guys, so you can purchase brushes that's on her recommended list,
Yes.
and all that good stuff. Sit back and relax and enjoy. If you're subscribed, you can join chat. We usually talk about food or something like that, so
We'd like for you to subscribe
mm-hmm.
and click the bell to the little reminder bell if you do, and that way you'll know for sure that you'll get notifications. Sometimes just subscribing doesn't give you notifications of new videos, so the way YouTube does it has changed. So sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
It just depends on how often you've watched my videos, how recently. So if you know you're gonna want.
So she's moved on to the Deerfoot Stippler.
Yes, got the Deerfoot Stippler. I'm grabbing a little bit of that darker gray. It's a little bit darker than what I had here, and then I'm going to wipe most of it off. I'm going to start to stipple in where I want my mortar lines to be and keeping it very light. And if you can't get thin enough lines with this, you could use a brush or just use a, another stiff bristled brush of some sort if you've got something else that you want to try working. I'm going to do kind of in between there. I have no idea where my original lines are here, so I'm just going to wing it. Hope for the best. Let's see.
And subscribing, you can check out the couple hundred other videos that she has.
Yep, we have videos, all kinds of different difficulty levels. Some more easier than others. More easier. That's good grammar.
More easier.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good to me. The easierist.
Easierist, yeah. So just scrubbing. This is going to look kind of messy at first, so don't worry too much about it. Really, the thing to remember when you're painting with acrylics is just that they really, it's all about the layers. It's all about, the steps. And you're just going to have to kind of know, if you're new to painting, that it's normal to have these kind of ugly stages throughout your painting. You're not going to, start out and have it look amazing. I mean, it's a process. So you're just going to have to, if you know that going in on it, then it's a little bit less stressful when you get to a point where you're like, I think this looks really bad. Like, I don't think that this is working out, because your brain's going to start telling you that about halfway through your painting.
Yeah, that doesn't look anything like flowers right now.
Right, exactly. You're just like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it wrong. This doesn't look like stone, whatever. But just kind of know that and just sort of ignore it. Just learn to kind of chill, let the process happen. Trust that I'll get you to the end. Hopefully. If you're going to just do what I'm doing here, I'll get it looking good in the end for you.
And you will, because I've seen a lot of people who said that they've been painting a very short time, and they post their paintings on your Facebook group, and they look pretty amazing for a second or third try. Time painting, I mean.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the projects that I'm trying to teach are ones that I think are, doable. I've taught kids for years in private lessons and adults, but mostly kids. And I feel like if you can teach kids how to paint, you can definitely teach adults how to paint. I think adults are actually harder on themselves than the kids are. Kids kind of just embrace the process and go for it. And adults were just kind of like, I don't know about this. We're just going to fight the whole process the whole way through a lot of times. So, or, we have really high expectations. We think that we should paint like the teacher the first time we sit down to paint. And that's not necessarily realistic, I mean, you wouldn't sit down or, take skiing lessons or whatever Mark's example, you wouldn't start out on the bunny slope and then be like, I think I'm ready for the black diamond tomorrow, It's like, and think that you're going to do, well. So
I think I'll go to first grade tomorrow.
Right. yeah. I just think that, if you take it slow, start with projects like this that are easy for beginners. Don't start out, painting your Aunt Mildred and her cat. It's probably not going to go well. So that's.
Hey, real quick, if somebody doesn't have a Deerfoot stippler, what would be another brush to use for this?
You could use a like a stencil brush like this. They're really cheap. They've just got stiff bristle. These hog bristle brushes work really well for something like that. You just want something with very firm bristles. The cat's getting evicted from the studio. He decided to start exploring in the boxes. So you're so mean, Mark. don't know why you just took him. That was so rude. He was just trying to check out the boxes and see what was in them. I knew that wasn't going to go well. They're banned from my studio for a reason.
Yeah.
All right, so now I've got the unbleached titanium. I mixed a little bit with the gray, but I'm just kind of going over, sort of in the middle area of these dark spots. And you notice I've kind of gone right over the top of my pots. I mean, I kind of know where they're at, but don't try to paint around them. You don't want to end up with like a halo. You can always, that's why I said to draw it on paper, because that way you don't have to worry. You can draw it on paper and then take your paper and trace it and use some graphite paper and transfer it onto your canvas. Graphite paper is the artist's best friend, because you can do all kinds of, you can trace just about anything that you want. It's good for beginners, because if you don't have to know how to draw to be able to enjoy painting. I'm all for, I would say, if you're serious about learning to, be an artist, that you definitely do want to learn to draw eventually, but you don't have to do it right off the bat. If you just want to enjoy a little bit of painting on this, in your free time,
Now,
then just use some traceables, trace it. You don't have to know how to paint or know how to draw to be able to enjoy painting.
do you need to know how to draw if you're running video and audio for a painter?
No.
Okay. All right,
good.
good. 'Cause I didn't know if I was going to have to learn.
No, you're okay.
Okay.
I think you're fine.
Hey, did you say where this photo came from?
This came from Shutterstock. So this was one of the paid ones that I paid to use for my video. So it's a monthly subscription. But
And then to transfer the traceables, you use a graphite paper, right? And like a stylist, or
yeah, I've got all the materials down in the description on Amazon that you'll need. So if you want to look for it in the description there's all the
oh yeah, your Amazon store.
list of tools. And then you can find them in the Amazon store. But I've got all the materials that I'm using, brushes and paints and everything down listed in the description. Okay, so now I'm just adding some of these darker shadows to some of my bricks or stones, I guess.
I think we need to coordinate with our neighbor when they're going to be mowing.
Because they can
weed
hear it.
eating.
You can.
It's awesome.
Yeah. That's all right. We've had birds chirping out the window. I remember that when the birds were sitting right there. We had a bird sitting right outside my window here in front of the studio, just chirping away. One video. We've had thunderstorms. We had
a fly.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that fly was terrible.
Monster fly.
Yeah. He was a monster. He was a monster, and he was loud, like.
And I hit him out of the air while he was flying.
You did.
I have sweet talents.
That was impressive.
That and some nunchuck skills.
I haven't seen your nunchuck skills.
Oh, really? Okay.
You sure? Yeah. Did you give that up before you met me?
No, I just practice them when you're sleeping.
Okay. Well, that makes sense then.
In front of the mirror.
In front of the mirror. All right, going back to the light colors now. I got a little bit of white and a little bit of the unbleached titanium, and I'm going to really smush this down so that I have very little parts showing here, and I'm going to highlight just the top kind of corners. I did that dark parts, I don't know, just sort of randomly. I didn't really have any one particular area that I was doing it on. I just kind of picked a few places that I wanted a little bit of darkness. It was kind of varied on the stone. You know, you can see where there's kind of these dark areas, and I put a little bit in the grout areas too. But now I'm going to go in with my white and round out some of these areas. Now that I've got that grout in there and some of this dark color, I can start to kind of shape these stones a little bit more.
If somebody does not have a sponge, could they use a stencil brush to get some of the same effects?
You could use a stencil brush. You could use a paper towel. I'll show you with the paper towel. It'll be a little bit different, but you can get kind of similar sort of interesting textures. With the paper towel, I might dampen it just a little bit.
So when you're doing the paper towel, you're just barely touching it.
You're barely tapping it.
Not pushing
and I don't
down.
have a lot of paint on there either. So you just want to make sure that you're not repeating a pattern. Like there's kind of that pattern right there. So I'm going to kind of, if you turn it a little bit, same thing with the sponge. If you turn it as you're putting it on, you can kind of keep from getting too much of the same too much sameness. I'm not really worried about this area in here because it's going to be all covered with greenery, but you will see a little bit of it through, so you do want a little bit of detail, but not, you don't have to go into super detail.
Someone asked about plastic wrap.
Yeah, plastic wrap works. Plastic wrap will give it a little bit even more kind of angular look. But yeah, any of those kind of texture tool, anything textured, I mean, you could try. There's all kinds of different things you can use for this kind of thing. Just have fun with it and experiment.
Just don't put the plastic wrap back over the leftovers when you're done.
Right. Would not recommend that. Good tip, hon. Good tip.
I try. Things people don't normally think about, just you might want to rinse it off first.
Before putting it back on your food?
Yep.
Okay. Good to know. All right, so we're getting closer. And this is a pretty rough textured stone wall, as opposed to, it doesn't have like really clean grout lines. It's got a lot of kind of wavy edges. The stone is not cut like straight, so you're not going to expect to have like completely straight grout lines in your finished piece here. I'm just kind of letting it dry a little bit before I do my next step. Let's go ahead and put in our pots. We'll let that dry, paint in the pots, our first coat, and then we'll finish shadowing our walls. So I'm going to start out with burnt sienna for the pots. Add some of the unbleached titanium. That'll be kind of our base color for the pots. It's this kind of warm reddish terracotta color. If I can figure out where they were.
Kind of in those blank spots right there.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. I can come over and point them out to you.
I think I'm
Okay.
kind of good.
Right.
Thank you.
I'm just trying to expand my duties.
It's all right. I'll keep you around. Alrighty, here. Just using a number 4 bright. So it's about maybe a 1/2 inch, 3/8 inch flat bright. Bright is just a little bit shorter bristles than the flat. So when you hear bright or flat, that's the difference. There's not really much difference. They're both square edged brushes, but one has a little bit more shorter bristles than the other. Okay, there we go. This will also kind of help us know where we would need to concentrate on our, if we've missed any areas with our stone, we can kind of fix them now. And really the top of the pot is about the width of the brush, so you can kind of use that as your guide to know kind of how wide to make that section there. And the sides of the pot kind of don't come straight down either. They sort of bow out just a little bit. So you can kind of come out just slightly with your edges. So these are a little bit rounded from here to here. Slightly cut. And then this goes up. And I'm smoothing out any of my ridges, so if, you know, when you're doing this kind of line, you can tend to get a line of paint, like when you do, you can see it right there pretty well. You can tend to get kind of a line of paint in there. You want to smooth that out because acrylics will dry firm, like especially these heavy body acrylics that I'm using. They're polymer, kind of like a plastic, so they'll dry like a plastic, you know, hard like a plastic. And those ridges won't come out. They'll just be there forever. So if you want to, you know, keep it smooth, you will have to smooth it out as you go, so you don't have any of those areas, because you really won't be able to get rid of them afterwards. Even, you know, if you paint over them, you're still going to be able to see them when the light catches them. So come out just a little bit. Ooh, super chat. Yeah.
We got the disco lights blocked by the
That's all right.
foam again. This super chat is from Susan, and she says, "Hi Angela, I understand a painting will go through an ugly stage, but do you still have an occasional painting challenges?"
Oh yeah, all the time. All the time. All the time. The thing I think with experience that helps is just knowing that it'll pass, you know, just kind of knowing. But yeah, I get challenged with new things all the time, you know, trying new things, or, you know, something that I am painting, you know, isn't coming out exactly the way I had thought it would. But, you know, the whole key is just to kind of keep working at it until it all comes together, you know. And the nice thing about, you know, having painted for as long as I have is just kind of that comfort, I think, comfort level of kind of being a little bit more confident maybe that I can hopefully work through any kind of issues that I'm having with a canvas to get it where I want it to be. But it's definitely always, there's always challenges for sure, no matter how long you paint. And one, one of the things that I like is going back and reading some quotes from some of my favorite artists, Monet and some of the others that you would think that they kind of had their acts together, that they knew, everything there was to be about painting, and they, never had any problems with it. But it's just, I think that's inherent in any kind of creative process that there's going to be challenges. It's not a mathematical, equation. It's just it's any kind of creating is going to be
a challenge.
Yep. And a process, just a process, of kind of working through those challenges until you get it to where you want it to be. But I enjoy reading some of his stuff, where he was just like, no, I'm not sending the gallery my paintings this time because they're terrible. I know you're going to say that they're good, but they're not. I know, like this whole letter of Monet, he's just talking about to his, to his gallery owner, about how he wasn't going to send any of his new paintings because he hated all of them. So it just kind of tickled me because it's like, okay, I've been there.
Well, Susan finished off her comment with "You are an amazing artist."
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. That's so sweet. I don't feel like it most of the time. I feel like I'm one of these days everybody's going to figure out I don't know what I'm doing, but
they figure out it's really me painting.
Huh?
They'll figure out it's really me painting.
Oh, I just think that we all have our own kind of, insecurities, no matter how long you painted for. So, all right. So I'm going to use some of this lighter color here. I'm going to go through here and I'm using this brush, this number 2 or number 4 bright again. And I'm going to kind of firm up some of these edges of my rocks. Just sort of create a solid edge. There, you see the difference between this and like up here where it's all kind of sort of messed up. The key is to not get it too different from what's underneath. So you kind of want to pick a color that's similar to what is going to be underneath here so that we don't have this new color being introduced that doesn't make any sense with the colors underneath it. So what you can do is, if it's a little bit, if you've got a color, like on this one, where the underneath color is pretty dark, what you can do is just use your finger and kind of pull that lighter color into the dark area, and that way it'll sort of blend in with the area around it. Okay. So now we're just going to go through and do this in all of our stones. And they might not all need it. We might have some that are, already pretty well defined. So you can just kind of pick and choose which ones you want to do this to. But keeping very light touch and just sort of dabbing on this paint so that it's not a solid line. I want it to stay kind of soft, like our background. And sometimes I might want to get a little bit brighter color and do a little bit brighter here and there. Maybe mostly on the top edges where the light might be catching it. Okay. I don't even know where I think my separation was right there. If you need to, you can grab the darker color too and do the same thing with the darker color in the grout and kind of define the grout a little bit, or the mortar, whatever this is. Go through and
so what kind
in fact,
of
I'd probably suggest to do both.
if they wanted to add in some kind of a texture or medium to this, what would they possibly use?
Oh, you could use all kinds of different things. There's coarse. Golden has a coarse gel medium, I think.
Oh, yeah,
coarse,
that's right.
I'm trying to think of what it's called.
Gotta get my book here. Hold
Coarse
on.
model. Wait, right here. This stuff. It's pretty. Well, this one's almost dry. Yeah, it is pretty much dry. This is an older thing, but this one's not their super coarse one. They have ones that are more coarse than others, like heavily textured. So I can't remember what it's called. You'll have to look it up, hon.
Yeah, I gotta find my little packet that I got.
Yeah. Okay.
So do you have enough glue boards over there?
Enough what boards?
Glue boards?
I don't know what you're talking about. What glue boards?
These things.
Oh, where were they?
On top of your printer?
Oh, I was looking for them the other day. The spider glue boards. Spencer and I were putting them out because we had a bunch of spiders the other day in the house, like all in a row. You know, we like each killed like 4 of them within a couple days. You know, we're like, yeah, that's not good. We have to put out our glue boards. Well, now I know where they were. We couldn't find it. We found a few in the garage, but sorry, this is not an interesting conversation about art at all. Spiders are like no. I don't. Snakes don't really scare me. You know, mice, none of that. But spiders, yeah, no. Spiders, and me and Spencer both. Mark was gone. I can't remember. It was like last year, I think. Mark was gone. And there was a monster spider. I mean, it was like that big. It was huge. And it was on our curtains. So, like, how do you get, a spider off the curtains? And Spencer and I were just like 2 little girls in there, Neither one of us wanted to try to kill it. So we finally got the fly swatter, I think, and pulled the curtain way out of the wall. It was so bad. Oh my gosh.
So quickly here, because I got a spider story also.
Okay, well.
We got absorbent ground or pastel ground.
Mm-hmm.
Are those what you're talking about?
No, well, no pastel ground in that. That's not going to be.
Sandal.
Of course, texture paste or some sort of like that. I think they have extra firm texture paste or something to that nature. Anyhow, they could find it. It's either modeling paste is going to, your pastes are going to have a white base, but that'll so it'll dry white-ish and you'll paint over it. The gels, anything that says gels will have a clear base, so you can tint it if you want.
Yeah, they got a pumice gel and a glass bead gel, fiber paste, coarse modeling paste.
Coarse modeling paste, that's what I was just showing them.
Light modeling paste. So yeah, or sorry, molding. Sorry, not modeling, molding paste.
What was there extra coarse molding paste? Well, you're right, it is molding. I think I was calling it modeling too.
They have molding paste, light molding paste, coarse molding paste, and hard molding paste.
Not sure.
The glass bead gel is pretty cool.
That was pretty cool.
They did a demo with that. That was pretty
It was like
awesome.
little circles. It wouldn't look like stone, really.
Yeah.
I think.
And then the pumice gel has a kind of a sandy.
Yeah, the pumice gel
Feel
was
to
kind of
it.
a fine, soft looking.
I think that
liked
would
it.
look good in this.
Yeah, probably. I mean, if they're wanting a really... Well, I mean, I guess it depends on the way you put it on. You can put on any of them with a palette knife, you know, kind of thickly, and it'd look good. So.
And a clear granular gel. It's translucent and you can mix it with paint. So you just it's adding texture to your paint directly, so that might work.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, there's all kinds of any number of different things that you... But yeah, if you put it on with with a palette knife, kind of like what we did here with the credit card, and just leave those kind of really raised areas, and then come back through, and after it's dries, you'll need to do it in a couple of steps, you know, because the modeling paste takes 24 hours or usually, you know, to dry, so you can't really speed up the process with a hairdryer like you do with acrylics, with paint. Right, so we're starting to look like an old beat up wall, huh? Getting there.
So quickly, I was out doing yard work a couple weeks ago. You were on your trip, and I got close to the trash can, and I'm like, I could smell something. I'm like, what is that smell? What the world? It didn't smell bad. It smelled good. Well, come to find out that Spencer had found a spider on the trash can.
But yeah, you told me about that.
But couldn't find the spray.
Right.
So he came in and got cologne.
I remember that.
And sprayed the spider with cologne. So the trash can smelled...
I remember that. He was so proud because he was like, well, it worked.
Yep. Trash can smelled really good.
I forgot about that. That was awesome. Yeah, he was like, where's the bug spray? I was like, I have no idea. So yeah, he improvised. Used cologne. He wasn't about to. I was like, we'll smash it. He was like, nope, I'm not getting near that thing. Oh gosh, that was funny. I think it was a black widow, so I think he was probably smart not to get close to it. That's hilarious. So cologne works, kills spiders. That was good. I forgot all about that. Yeah, I didn't really think about what it would be like for you, you know, coming across it. I'm sure it's like, what the
Man,
heck?
I know that smell. What is it?
Polo.
Yeah.
Just polo blue, I think. It's like some expensive bug spray there.
Exactly.
I would not recommend it.
No. Not cost effective.
No. All right, almost there. Just want to make sure you give attention to all of these edges. Really make a difference. Well, we've spent almost an hour just on the stone wall.
And some clay pots.
What were you laughing at?
Oh, Mona wants us to stop talking about spiders.
Oh, no. Is it bugging, freaking you out? Sorry. I'm fine to stop. I'm with you, Mona.
Okay, we'll talk about chocolate.
Okay.
Yeah, Joe suggested that, so sounds good.
Huh?
Chocolate is better to talk about.
Yeah. All right, you need a little bit of brown mixed in with that black. And I'm going to wipe most of it off, but I've got it watered down, so I've got a lot of water in here. You could use glazing liquid if you have it. And I'm going to make sure that this is dry, and I'm going to darken up this whole middle area here. And so I'm just going to glaze over. And it doesn't have to be perfect since we've, it's got the stone. If we were trying to do it on like a fruit or something where, it was smooth surface, you could be a little bit more careful with this, but this is already textured surface, so we can kind of just slap it on there and then sort of just dab it off so that it sort of blends in, but we want this area in the middle around the pots to be darker. So I'm going to just do that all the way around it. Make sure that the paint that you just put on is dry. You don't want to do this with the paint wet because it'll lift it. Anytime you have like thick acrylics down, you don't want to add water to them because the water will lift them off the canvas. You can add water to dry paint, to glaze and things like that, but you don't want to add it to your thick paint unless you want to lift it. And I'm not worried about my pot being just trying to kind of add a little bit of darkness. Go a little bit darker in the creases. And then I'm going to just pick some spots to add some of this random shadowing. Maybe around your bricks a little bit. I might darken up the edges of the canvas a little bit to kind of make it more of a vignette feeling. It'll kind of pull in those sides. Oh, I'm off the camera there.
I zoomed in so they could see you doing the darkening around the pots. And I got distracted by a cat.
By what?
By a cat.
Oh, what's she doing now?
She jumped up on my lap now.
Telling you, they're not. They need to.
She's watching the lights on the control board here.
Cashmere is the dumbest cat ever. I swear. She was staring at her shadow the other day for like an hour. Just staring at it. And every now and then she'd turn her head and then be like, ooh.
It moved.
It moved. Yeah. Okay, so darkening up some of the mortar and just darkening up these outer edges. Just do small sections at a time. And if you get it, too thick, add a little damp cloth to it and dab it off. It'll come right off if you catch it. Just make sure your background is dry. You can alter the darkness of your stones pretty easily this way. And I'm just putting it on kind of haphazardly, changing the direction so that it's kind of crisscrossing itself so that you don't have like a solid line. Now I wouldn't want to go straight across like this and then you'd be fighting with this solid line. So if you kind of slap it on there a little bit irregular, it'll be easier to blend it in with your towel. You won't have this straight line that you're kind of fighting to blend in. Okay, I think we're good. We'll call that good. Like it. Now we can always add more of the texture to our stone if we want. I'm gonna grab my stippler and just add a little here and there maybe. One last little detail. gonna call that good.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it, everybody. Give it a thumbs up, like, subscribe.
A little bit more, hon. A little bit more.
Oh,
You
sorry.
can go look at your cars. All right. Yeah, so you guys can, in chat, can talk about what?
I'm just dancing over here.
Can talk about Prius versus Camry. Mark's, I'm trying to tell him that he needs to get the Camry. He's thinking he wants a Prius, but
I'm more practical.
yeah. Well, I just think it'll be more comfortable since you drive so much. All right, so I mixed up some light. I'm sorry, I'm talking about cars instead of telling you what I'm painting. Sorry.
Exactly.
I'm going to get mean comments.
You're not talking about painting.
Yellow
I've got
Oxide,
you off camera.
a little bit unbleached titanium, and burnt sienna here. So it's just a little bit lighter than what our starting color was, this burnt sienna color. And I'm just going to start on the edge. This is our highlight side. And I'm going to work towards the middle, and I'm just using very light brush strokes. Put the brush paint down and then using my finger to kind of just pull it and blend a little bit. Leave a little bit of a dark space right here. And these pots are kind of old and rustic looking, so they're not perfectly like smooth. There's some modeling and kind of gray stuff growing on them, so let's grab some more of that kind of medium color here. Put some of that on. Dabbing. Dab.
Yabba.
Yabba dabba doo. You're so funny.
Or Chef John would say, the old dabba dabba.
Mm-hmm.
As Chef John would say, the old dabba dabba.
Yo dabba dabba.
I don't know if he said shaka.
I don't watch him enough to know. Like you. All right. So starting to get there. Let's grab a little bit of purple in the burnt umber here. I don't want it to be like purple, but I want a little bit of a purpley tone in this shadow. And I did not clean out my brush, so it's going to have a little bit of all these other colors in it, kind of toning it down a little bit even more. I'll wipe my brush off. So I have very little paint on here, and I'm going to pull in this direction. See, this may be a little dark to start with, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, it's doing all right. We can grab a little bit of the burnt sienna color and mix that with it, just to tone it down a little bit. I'm going to tap along that bottom ledge of the pot. There's a shadow right there. Very light touches here, just kind of using the corner of my brush. And that way we kind of, having that lighter color on one side and that darker color on the other side automatically kind of makes it look rounded. It's a nice little trick. And then there's like a little bit of that bottom showing on this one.
That's looking pretty cool.
Good.
I mean, not to say I haven't been watching it, but I look up and it's come a long way in the last 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, do I watch to make sure she's not going off screen and all that, or do I try to reach out and make sure everything's okay?
It is like magic. Sometimes I think that's the thing that I love most about painting is this kind of time right here where it starts to finally look like something. And you start to kind of have that aha moment. It's such a cool feeling. Kind of like, oh, yes, it's working. Yes. All right, so I'm grabbing some white. I'm going to add it to this color that's got the little tiny bit of purple in it. And I'm going to use it to, I might just use my stippler. Let me see how that works. Or if you have a smaller stippler like I'm just going to pull color off my brush there. Like this little Willow's blender here. Just going to add like little gray. There's these little gray kind of highlights on these pots that I think is kind of mold or mossy kind of growth on them. It's probably mildew or something, but that's all right. We're going to put it on there anyways. Well, you know how they grow they kind of end up with this kind of whitish, sort of fuzzy, hazy looking stuff on them. So there's those with it and without. You can do either one. If you don't want it, you don't have to put it on there. I kind of like it with. It looks a little more authentic, I think. Get a little bit of this and put it along that top edge there. It's bright right there. Maybe a little bit more white even.
Okay.
There we go.
Chat saying that the white is mineral deposits left from the water.
Oh, okay, cool.
So not as gross as mildew.
Huh?
Not as gross as mildew.
Right. Well, I'm glad to know that. That's good. Okay, so there we go. Just get in there. I think I like that. All right, so now I'm going to switch to my round brush. Let's get this one here. And I'll draw out our yeah, I guess I'll use the white. So straight up our little hanger here. Okay, so let me see. There's a black bar that goes across this pot here, and then right about there it curves up to about kind of the outside of that pot there. There and there, like that. And then straight up from the middle there's a line, and then there's some, I think there's these kind of curved lines that sort of do like this, like that. And then at the top, right about the top of this pot right here, you're going to go all the way up and then we're going to have this fleur-de-lis right here. So it's sort of a triangle, oh no, diamond shape almost, kind of rounded at the tips. What is that shape? I don't know. And then curling off of either side of them. Just trying to get these curlicues even. There we go. There's our little thing. So let's use our black. And we can tone it down a little bit with our blue-gray color we mixed before. And I'm going to use my number 2 round here, and I'm just going to carefully draw it in. When you're using a round brush, it's helpful if you add a little bit of water to your paint. It'll make it easier to paint with. You get smoother lines. Okay. And you might find that it's easier if you turn it so that you're always kind of pulling from this left to right direction. It can be easier when you're first starting to paint to kind of do that, because your muscle control is used to that kind of direction. You know, you'll have more control since you're used to writing in that direction. If you're right-handed, you know, your hand will already be used to that kind of feel. So don't feel like you have to leave it flat and try to paint around these curves. It'll be easier if you kind of turn it around on its side. There you go. Most of this middle part is going to be covered up, but we'll go ahead and put it in anyways, just in case any of it is showing through our greenery that we're going to put in here. All right, and then we're going to put in these little circular things. So it's going to come around like this, as like a circle right here. So we're going to kind of bring it out and up and back around. So it's going to kind of cup it a little bit. It's not going to go straight across. See that?
Mm-hmm.
Come out a little bit from the edge of the pot, and then this one will be right in here. This one is kind of curved down a little bit. Okay, and then we're going to use white. Mix that, mix a gray. And we're going to go over right in the middle of this to give it some dimension. Keep it in the middle, and that way it'll look like it's rounded. Every now and then you can put a little bit brighter highlight. Using very light touches with my brush. Whoops. Touch my... Get a little wet paper towel here and just wipe the part off there. Touch my... I never do that. Not put my hand in it. she said
Okay, pro
every
tip.
time she does it.
You're just doing it for people just to
Right, make you
show
feel
them.
better. Like
Right.
that, like just don't do what I'm doing right here. Just show you what not to do. All right, so just kind of carefully going through and dabbing off of my chalk with my damp towel here so I can see what I've got. But we're already looking pretty good. So we're making pretty good time on this. I think. Not too bad. None of this down here is going to get any light, so I'm not going to really worry too much about that, but I'm going to highlight this part down here. And I'm going to put it. There we go. And it looks like there's some sort of kind of rust almost on some of it, so I'm going to grab some of this red and just dab over some of it with the burnt umber. It's mixed a little bit with that white, so it's not pure burnt umber. There we go. Make it more rustic. Liking it. A little bit more white. I'm going to just put a little bit bright. Oop, too much water. Right there. Kind of right in the middle where it might be coming out at us more. That'll round it out a little bit. It's good. All right, let's put on our flowers. It's the best part.
No, the hanger was.
What?
The hanger was.
The hanger was the best part?
We can end right now and
I'm glad you liked it.
it'd be perfect.
I can end right now.
Yep.
You just wanna go.
No. I'm just saying this. Okay, if you want to do flowers.
You can put any kind of flowers in here you wanted to. You don't have to do geraniums. If you don't like them, you can put in. Got all kinds of flower tutorials, so you could use all kinds of. You could use a different flower in each pot. You could do all kinds of fun stuff with this. So hope you guys share it with me so I can see what you guys choose to do. If you choose to do something different than what I'm doing here, I would love to see it. I always like seeing what you guys are working on for my tutorials. A lot of times they're better than what I could have come up with, so that's alrighty. So I mixed a little bit of a dark green there. I added a little bit of burnt ultramarine blue and burnt umber to my phthalo green. And then I made a lighter green over here with a little bit of the yellow oxide and the phthalo green. And I'm going to just kind of put in some of my leaves. And these leaves have they're like a V shape here. And then they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of rounded sections. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then sort of a V shape in the back. Now, not all of them are going to be perfectly facing us. So back in here, I'm just going to dab in some color for now. Some random, just using this angle brush and sort of flip-flopping some shapes. Get some random leaf shapes going, and I'm going to do some stems. So some of these stems are going to kind of come up here. If I use the edge of my brush, press it flat so that I have a nice chiseled edge, I can get some lines to do some straight vines. I'm going to pull one straight out that way. There's a big old flower that's going to be right out here. These are coming down over the pot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just kind of using that edge of my brush to create those shapes. This one's going to come out this way a little bit more. Really only have to define just a few of these. I don't have to do them all perfectly, because most of them are kind of covered up by other leaves and things. So we just want to get the kind of basic shape right. On a few of them. So let's do a big one right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Starting out with these dark colors because this will be a good base for our lighter highlight colors to go on top. So I usually like to start with the dark colors first. Right. So a couple up here, a couple coming up this way. There's some coming down here and curving out. And then right in front here, we just want to cover up where that pot. Put some leaves in front right here. Don't be afraid to go right over the top of that fleur-de-lis, because there's going to be a big flower right here. Several leaves all in there. There's a big old flower that comes up like that. There's one that kind of comes up this way. And then there's this vine that kind of trails all the way down here and has leaves coming off of it. Some of the leaves are not going to be facing us, so we're only going to see the side of them, so they'll look like kind of lines or dashes. You know, some of these, they're kind of laying on their side. Will look more like that, or maybe a little line like that, or something. Let's do a big one right here. I'm just making these by kind of smushing my brush down and lifting these random shapes, leaf shapes. So, and by turning your brush and kind of turning it and lifting at different spots, you'll get different sized dabs coming off your brush. Sometimes I'm pointing straight down. If I point straight down, I'll get more of a rounded look. If I kind of use the back end of it, I can get more of an angular leaf looking kind of shape. So I'm doing kind of a lot of both. There's all these kind of coming up from here. Okay. All right, looking good so far, I think. Most of those letter.
Looking really good.
Thanks, son. All right, adding some white to that yellow mixture that I made. Grab a little bit more of the phthalo green so I kind of have a medium version of it. And I'm going to put in some highlights and pull from the outside in. Some of them are going to have like little lines showing. And some of them will just be a little highlight. It's going to look weird at first. We can use that medium green, that darker green, and kind of tap back over some of this to smooth it in. Some of them I'll just dab in some random shapes, the ones that I'm not really worried about defining. There's some little buds and things happening. Then some of these leaves I'm gonna give a little bit more attention to. Get some of that medium color and just kind of tap in around these stems here to kind of smooth them into our leaf. Grab some of that dark green color again and dabbing some of this lighter color over the top of some of these. Grab some yellow, mix that in. I'm not going for like ultra realism here. I'm just kind of trying to get the essence of the leaf. If you want to take your time and you can kind of define these a little bit better, you can do that. But this is more of kind of an impressionist type feeling that we're doing. I find that it's a little bit easier for beginners to kind of do this sort of looser style. So just little dabs. The key is having light and dark areas. So I'm getting really light here, very light. And I'll go over some of my stems with this really light color. probably, you don't have to go back over your lines if you don't want to. This might be a little bit difficult if you're not used to doing lines, so you can just use your original lines that you had. Get a little bit of these lighter colors in here. Think about where the light might hit them, make them brighter. Some of them are going to stay down in here in the dark. They're not going to get any highlights at all. I'm going to make some little seed heads on some of these. Just little dots kind of going towards that stem. Like out here, there's some seed pods where the flowers haven't opened up yet. There. Love this part. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go ahead and put in some. The key is that dark area. Make sure you go dark enough. If you don't have that dark, the light won't, it'll just be flat. So that's the main thing. I think that a lot of beginner painters miss is just that depth. They just don't put enough of the really good contrast between the colors. And kind of gets, and it's scary when you go in with a really dark color. If it's the first color that you're putting down, you know, it's kind of like, it's going to look weird and you're going to think you did, you know, it's way too dark. Well, it's going to look way too dark until you put your lighter colors on top. But then once you get those in there, it'll look just right. So, like I said, just kind of trust the process. It's going to, some of these steps are not going to make sense to you until you get them all done. You know, the first 3 steps might be like, and then the last step you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's pretty much how it goes with painting.
So as it's being suggested in chat, you can stop right here with just the greenery.
Yeah, totally.
You know, you can go as far as you want to with your painting. You don't have to go.
Absolutely. Yeah, it could look like, it almost looks like ivy, you know, kind of.
Yep.
If I was to stop here, I'd probably trail it down a little bit more, maybe.
Well, that wouldn't be stopping.
I'm just saying, you know. All right, ooh, I forgot I have a flower down here. All right, so I'm making kind of a cherry red, mixing the Quinacridone Magenta with the Cadmium Red Medium. It makes this really beautiful, brilliant crimson. Now, if you have like naphthalene crimson, you could probably use that instead. But I like having all these different reds at my disposal, so I went ahead and just mixed my own here. But I'm going to create these little clusters, and these are clusters of flowers. They're not one flower, it's like multiple flowers kind of all bunched up together. So keep that in mind when you're putting these on. That you're just going to be doing little dabs of petals that are all sort of in a general kind of oval shape. Don't get them too tight together right at first. You want a little bit of space between them. We'll put in lighter colors. I'm just using that tip of my brush to kind of create these little petal shapes and keep them kind of irregular on their borders. So you're going to have these kind of weird stray petals that are sticking out from the outside edges kind of coming in, so it's not a perfectly round, you know, sphere or oval. It's got all these kind of shapes. Some little lines, some more rounded. Whoop. All right, let's do one down here. I didn't put my stem to it, but I will. I feel like I could do way more, but I'm really holding back here. Can you tell? I'm really holding back.
Yes, I can tell.
I just want to really fill this whole thing up with flowers right now.
You just want to let loose.
I do. I want flowers all down in here too, but okay, take a deep breath. Back off. I'm trying to stay good. I'm just trying to do what's on the picture. I can add more later if I need to. Okay. These dabs. Let's see. This one goes right over the top of that. I don't want to cover up my whole fleur-de-lis, so I'll move it over a little bit so I can see that curve a little bit. It's a really big one right here. A little bit smaller one right here. Just trying to connect up to those stems that I already put in. And some of these little buds, I'm kind of starting some red. Sort of like maybe just opening up. Okay, let's see, it's good. It's good. Clean out my brush. Wipe it down. Grab a little bit of the purple. And I'm going to mix that with this cherry red. Get a little bit of a dark color going just for our shadow in our flowers. And this we're going to use kind of sparingly, but I want to have little dabs, mostly in the centers of these. Just a little bit of this darker color. Now some of them that went over the green, you may find that you can see the green through and you might not need as much of this color. But I want just a little bit of the shadowy color in our flowers there. And I didn't start with that color because it's so dark, I didn't want too much of it. So generally I'll start with the darkest color, but I didn't this time because it just didn't want that much of it. And let's put our stem in here, this one pointing down. And the geranium stems are very like abrupt. They grow at weird angles, you know, to each other. They don't like grow smooth, you know, they're not like rounded, soft stems. They grow real angularly. That's weird, hard to say. Okay, almost done. Almost there. Oh, so not too bad. That's about what I thought. Hour and a half. Almost
Man,
an hour and a half.
you got this one right almost.
That never happens.
I know. It's like,
Wow.
what? No.
What happened?
Never.
All right, so let's grab some red, cadmium red, a little bit of the cadmium red light with it, and I'm just going to add little dabs to our flowers, changing my direction of my brush so that some of them are kind of more straight than others, some of them are more rounded. You can look at your flowers and see kind of where the light's hitting them. I'm kind of trying to stay on top of where I've already done these petals. Might do a few in between, but for the most part I'm kind of trying to highlight what I've already got going on. So I'm not adding too many extra petals. I'm just, especially don't want to mess with my border unless I want to add more, you know, border petals. But if you like what you already put on there, then just kind of stick to the middle and highlight what you've got going on. I'm going to grab some of the Cadmium Red Medium. And I'm going to pull a few little more detailed petals. Okay. Let's put a little red up here where these ones are starting to grow.
Are you able to see the hanger nail
in
the picture?
Yes, you are. I will put that in. Thank you.
Okay. It wasn't me reminding, it was
Yes.
Patricia.
Thank you, Patricia. Yep, there's a nail right here. A little white and gray. Let me make it darker. It's actually kind of up in there. There we go. Now, let's see it. Good call. I'm going to make some pink here. And there's just a very little bit of this color. So, but I want it pretty light. And I'm going to use it just a few little swipes on just a few of these. Okay. Alright, and then I want to use a little bit of some cadmium red. And the white. Do a little bit of that. The white is where you can really kind of jack it up. So you just have to like limit yourself. Like say, 3 dabs, done. Like don't overdo it because you can really easily like overwhelm your whole thing and end up with a pink flower instead of this red that you want. Alright, and to finish, I'm going to go back in with my dark red, this Quinacridone and red mix. The first color that I put down. And just kind of clean up and add any additional petals or things that you want to smooth things out. If you need it, you may not need it, but you may decide you want to kind of go over some of those lighter colors and tone them down a little bit. You can water down this paint and use a little bit of watered color to glaze over the top of the lighter colors if you need to. I don't know how I ended up. I'm just going to go ahead and put some petals down here. Oh, what happened there? Just do another flower down there. Super chat.
Super chat from Diana. She says that she's bowing
Aw,
and says, "I'm not worthy."
that's awesome. Thank you. That's so sweet.
Thanks. Diane.
Love that.
That is awesome.
What's that from? That's from Wayne's World, right?
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
I'm not worthy.
It's great. I'm making a bright green here. Thank you, Diane.
I gotta turn the lights off. Sorry.
Thanks.
Hey, Shady would like to know if
Yellow? Oh, go ahead.
she's using a brilliant, I think magenta,
Mm-hmm.
the colors. What would she use for highlights?
Brilliant magenta for your colors?
Yeah.
Oh,
hope
so
you
like
know.
instead of red, using a magenta flower. I would just add white to it. I think, with magenta, you can kind of go full on pink and you'd be good. If you wanted to add a little bit of orangey tone, you could add a little bit of yellow, tiny bit of yellow to it, but okay, getting there. I think I'm just adding little touches here of, I noticed that there's a little bit more of a yellowish green to some of these leaves, so I added a little bit of yellow and just adding that in, but I think I'm done. I'm happy with that. Let me sign it real quick.
With what?
I've got my Pigma Sakura pen here. These are in the Amazon store down below. Makes it really easy to sign. They're waterproof, so you can varnish over them. And I just lost my brush now. All right, I'll go dig that out underneath the studio table there later. All right, there we go. There's our little geraniums in the pots. These are super fun to paint. Hope you try it. Lots of fun. Really enjoyed doing the rustic stone again. It's always fun getting out the sponge brush. Very messy, but All right, guys, have a great Saturday. We'll see you on Tuesday night with another video. Got a really exciting series that I'm going to be starting with little mini 5x5 inch canvases. So if you can find yourself some 5x5 inch canvases, if you are wanting to paint along with me, you'll need 9 of them. And we're going to do like a series on Tuesday nights starting this week, and we'll be running for 6 weeks.
Nice.
Six of them, not 9 of them, sorry. 6 of them, yes. So 6 5x5 inch canvases. We're going to put a little bird on each one, and they're going to be like a little composite.
Put a bird on it.
I know. It'll be fun.
Nice.
All right. So, thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.